Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby Beyond Forever Sports. It is a Thursday evening, and as such, it is the fan forum, and we are live. And yeah, as you can see, I've got a very willing and excited, nervy panel sitting in front of me, where we are. Yeah, we're gonna be previewing the Bok game, which is tomorrow. Obviously, Boks versus New Zealand. We're gonna be looking at some of the other New Zealand other pictures of this weekend of the World Cup warm-up games. Lots to talk about, but as you can see, I'm joined by always Rudy and Chris. Coming from you from all over, all places all over the world. We've got Wes back in Botswana, Chris over in the UK, who's busy telling us how excited he is about tomorrow. And yes, we know, Chris, you know that you're going to be at Twickenham.
Yes, in the press box.
And living the high life.
Fusion with the high flyers, free food, drinks. Heard it's the best press box in the world. So looking forward to that on Friday and Saturday. Let's not go back to back, eh?
Yeah, I can't verify whether it is the best press box because I haven't bloody been there yet. But so we'll have to get some feedback from you. But yeah, Wes, how's Botswana? How's life up there?
Yeah, it's winter. It's winter in Botswana. Today only got up to 35 degrees Celsius, and yesterday was a chilly 37. It's what is it now? 7 o'clock, and it's just dropped to 29 degrees. So winter in Bots is in full swing. But otherwise, all well. As you said, a little bit nervous for tomorrow's game, but my goodness, it's going to be a clash.
Yeah, look, to be fair, I mean, even down here in Joburg, I think it got up to about 30, 32 degrees today. So it's warm down here as well. And then, Roots, how are things down in the Eastern Cape?
All good, my brother, man. It's a pleasure to be on the show again. I think I had a sort of a moment of walking down the road here where I am. And I was just looking at the pavement and just thinking tomorrow night, could Manie Lebok kick a curb for us if he tried and get us over the line, because I'm hell of a nervous, you know.
Yeah.
But other than that, all is well.
We'll talk about Manie Lebok, and as well not been said.
We are.
Yeah, but no, we'll
sorry, Stevie, Karen.
We'll address the elephant in the room. When the Jacques Alba has been quizzed on him throughout the week, and as an interesting discussions he's had with interesting sort of replies I think that he's had towards the issue there. And I think the one thing about it which is really good is the fact that there is. Sorry, lads. Everything seemed to have dropped a little bit from my side, so we just trying to get everything back on track here, which I think it finally is. So apologies, people, if you are watching. There was a little bit of a technical glitch on this side. We do seem to be back. I can see everybody, which is the main thing. So long may that continue. But yeah, so coming up in the show, we're going to be talking about obviously the Bok All Black game, which is tomorrow, and that's going to be the main thing. We're going to be talking a bit about obviously the weekend, and the big thing that we're going to be talking about is a winning weekend last week. From Mr. Chris, who is very much earning the betting expert title. As you can see, we've got Chris is looking. Look, if I'm looking pretty good over here, it's because I've got new lights which arrived this week. Busy spending my winnings.
Got to keep forever sport flat. Of
Take
course,
my money.
I'll do the hard work, and you can play the golf. No worries.
There we go. Chris is going to be driving to Twickenham tomorrow in his Lambo that he's been just playing all nice and quickly with the winnings.
Well, obviously, the next one is a better internet provider. I'll get you that next year.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, if you can update us, I just want to get one. It's a nice gig up, gig down, download speed, and we move. But yeah, right, chaps. So let's talk about tomorrow, shall we? It is a very interesting game ahead, and it's difficult to kind of really decide how intense it's going to be, what the sort of the level is going to be, and where to really sort of talk about sort of the aspects of the game to focus in about. So where's just sort of a bit of an overview. There's probably no such thing as a Springboks versus All Blacks friendly. And tomorrow is officially 2 weeks until the World Cup, so it is officially 14 days. For New Zealand particularly, they'll be playing in the first game. So there is going to definitely be that certain amount of, we can't afford injuries, but, I mean, the intensity, the level tomorrow will surely be that much of a normal test match between the two. You know, you don't want to have a loss to the record between each other.
No, absolutely. I think, this is the rivalry in rugby. And as you said about injuries, I think, while that'll be in the back of the coaches' minds, I think the players, by now are such professionals that they know you have to go into games full strength. It's when you go in half-heartedly, when you're worried about injuries, that's when you potentially get a snag. So these guys will, as soon as that whistle goes, I think they're just going to go absolutely, full throttle, which is going to be fantastic to watch. I think, this game more than a run out, more than a blowout, more than getting, the ball through their hands and running the moves is definitely a psychological thing. I think that's what the teams and the coaches will be looking for. I think you want to go into the World Cup with a win, and you want to go in with potentially, a team that you, later on in the knockout stages with that win over them. So I think for these two sides, it's a matter of pride, but I think for the coaching staff, it's 100%, a mental thing. Can we get the win over? Can we go in, build the momentum, and go in the dominant side?
Yeah, I think the psychological thing is a big thing, and that's why I heard a conversation the other day, and somebody was saying that, they've heard from the grapevine that apparently Rassie was very much looking at this game as a mental sort of thing of just reminding the squad, reminding the team that, listen, you guys are not going to France as outside hopes, that you are still the best side in the world, that you can still beat any side in the world. And I think that, the ironic thing is, and I was saying this on my live show, is that we've only lost one game this year, and whilst there's been a lot of negativity around the side in terms of some of the performances and some of the, and what we've seen on the field, we had a bad 20 minutes against New Zealand, but apart from that, we've genuinely not really been in trouble so far this season, which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing. But we've had 2 wins against Argentina, a very good win against Australia, and then a record win against Wales. So, Roots, how important is it mentally? You go and beat All Blacks tomorrow. You now go into the World Cup having won 5 out of 6 matches in the lead up to the World Cup, and the one that you lost, you've then gone and beaten them later anyway. So how important is tomorrow from a mental point of view to get that victory?
I think psychologically it's very important for Jacques and the Springboks meeting the All Blacks on neutral ground. I think that sort of levels the playing field. If there was any sort of lingering doubt, if the Springboks can get or are at the level that the All Blacks have seemed to have risen to, then I think Saturday's game at Twickenham will be a good judge, because there's no sort of it's not a home ground advantage, so it's really a battle of wits now. And in as much as it's not going to be a friendly match, South Africa, with the return of Siya Kolisi, our captain, I think can be a definite galvanizing effect. So he was definitely sorely missed in the game where we lost the last game to the All Blacks. But I think from a point of view of momentum, we want to beat the All Blacks, because if you look back, I know it's going back now, but the 2019 World Cup, the group stage game, we lost to the All Blacks. So I think psychologically we can clear that to a 0 if we win on Saturday. Oh, sorry, tomorrow evening.
And then on the flip side of that, Chris, if we do lose, and let's hope that we don't, how much do you think that is a big effect, or do you think that we've gotten to a stage where there is so much trust and belief built within the squad that they can get over a loss and they can sit there and say, right, well, you lost, but there's enough that we can take from it to be able to know we're still going into the World Cup? Or does a loss really do? I mean, how much does that set us back if we do lose?
I wouldn't say a lot. I mean, I do think momentum in sport is a big thing. Like you said, you want to be winning going into big competitions. That's proven, I think, as well. Stats, teams that ride in with momentum carry that through big tournaments. It's a strategy, because I know we've got Estes and Amudi there in the centres, and it's exciting to see those names together. But from my experience watching rugby, centres combinations don't gel straight away. We can get excited about it, but they're up against Barrett and Ione, probably the form centre combination in world rugby right now. So I think I'm positive. I think it's going to be a cracking game, but I do worry that we might be a little bit let down by how we play, because if those combos don't gel and New Zealand are going to play quick, because what you noticed is the All Blacks are playing at they're playing at the old All Blacks pace. Last year they looked very slow and cumbersome, but now they're playing at that. They've obviously said themselves, what the hell are we doing, guys? That's not our rugby. Let's go. We've been sucked into what everyone thinks we should play. Let's go play our rugby again. And it's coming back together. And someone also made a good point. We were all bashing Fozzie last year, but all the way. But in a way, with him leaving at the end of the World Cup, they made the announcement. It kind of had this kind of like, it's got this kind of like last dance feel, Bulls last dance. It looks like they've galvanized them and said, one team, one dream together. Let's go out and do it together. And it's re-galvanized them. I hope it says a Moody connect, but I think there could be a lot of space for the All Blacks as well tomorrow. So I think we need to be cautious of that. But I think it's going to be, and also another thing, we played, when we did play, we had Willemster. We were all worried about Willemster at 10 in New Zealand, and we saw that didn't go too well. And now we're playing with Lebok at 10. I don't know if you guys can record. Did Lebok play in the winning tests recently? Last time we beat them in Nelspruit, I think it was Pollard at 10.
He wasn't even part of the squad. A year ago, I mean, you got called up for the first time at the end of your tour.
Yeah. So we're gonna see a very different book style versus New Zealand. I'm actually very curious to see how this book backline with Moody and Este. It's gonna be very interesting to see. So I think obviously this is Niedermayer's last chance to see these combos, because if Creel goes down, you're probably gonna get Moody in their 13. So I think we're going to see it. It's going to look different on the eye. And there's also that stat. I don't know if you guys picked that up. It's actually from those guys that some of us don't like. But about the neutral ground, Books, New Zealand neutral ground, we actually have the better record in recent
how many times
recent history.
Do you have any idea how many times we played on neutral ground overall? I think it's all the World Cups. So
4 times. There's 99 World Cup. We beat them at
95.
Wales. 95.
I suppose it's in South Africa, so it doesn't show any counting it.
Yeah,
So.
it's 95. We beat them in Australia.
Yes, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to be fair. Sometimes World Cup, they sometimes count World Cup as neutral grounds anyway. But yes, so now it's a home game.
But yeah, basically we play a lot better than when we play.
And what I want to know is, in those stats, did they count Cape Town games as home games for South Africa or home games for New Zealand?
Yeah.
Because Steve, can I jump in? One thing on that. Sorry, like with the, I think we need to be hesitant. If we go out there and if we put 100 points on the All Blacks, that doesn't mean we're winning the World Cup. And if we go out there and we lose by 100 points to All Blacks, that doesn't mean we're losing the World Cup. I think yes, we want to ride the momentum, but I think we've got to remember, and as my coach used to say, which is maybe a bit problematic, he always used to shout from the field, "There's more than one way into a house." I don't know where you got that analogy from. But,
where did you go to school?
This is in the States, which is I don't know if that makes it better or worse. But anyway, so and it always used to just reset our mind where if we were going down or we did lose a game, whatever, his first thing was always there's always more than one way. So I think we put too much on this game at our peril. Yes, as Chris said, momentum is massive. We want to go in, we want to win. But as Chris also pointed out, we've got an experimental centre pairing, so we call it for tomorrow, where the All Black side looks pretty full strength. I mean, if I asked you to choose, more or less a full strength side to play in a World Cup final, I think the All Black side you're picking that. But I think we just need to. I'm going to ask the Bok fans to go against their very nature and not be reactive to tomorrow's results, whether it's good or bad.
We're going to burn things down. We're going to riot.
Just sorry, Chris, can you help me quickly? The last game that we played against the All Blacks at Twickenham, did we not lose in the semi-final of the 2015 World Cup?
We did lose, yes.
So I think we'd want to get one back on them on neutral ground.
We did lose, and I still remember we spoke just before we came on air. We said don't go behind against the All Blacks. I know I think it was Lutliog. I know we love him, but that effort of that tackle when they scored that first try.
Jerome Kano, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that effort. I just remember because it was said any lead that All Blacks get, and that tackle because it wasn't a great effort, and we lost by 2 points because Dan Carter was also nailing from the touchline, wasn't he? We were on the try line. Could have easily won.
Some silly drop goal as well. A la Stephen Larkham style
but that was just Dan Carter's World Cup. That was Dan Carter coming back saying 2011 was bullshit. I'm here to add the final thing to my record.
Yeah, I actually had no issue. I had no issue seeing that guy hold that trophy. To be fair, he was always as a rugby fan, I loved watching that guy play every game he played.
You can't hate Dan Carter. He's just one of those players, But Yeah, so you talk about combination. I think combinations are very interesting. And really, as a forward, I'll throw it to you. If you look at that pack, we've now got the Khaleesi, Peter Steph, the Toy, Dwayne Vermeulen, Loose Trio reunited. Franco Mostert next to Eben Etzebeth. I like that combination. I think that I would look at using that in the World Cup with Archie Stanley coming off the bench. I think he is such a great impact player. And then obviously this front row is now we kind of sticking with this front row as our best front row. So you look at those three different combinations. Is this close to our strongest pack in terms of players available and in the squad?
I want to say yes, judging from the 1 to 8. So 6, 7, and 8, Khaleesi, obviously I mentioned coming back, has galvanized that back row. I just think for the sake of his temperament, regardless of his playing style and his form and his ability as a player, it just gives then the other players the opportunity to then just concentrate on what they're doing. So Dwayne Vermeulen, for example, does what Dwayne does. Peter Steph is all over the place, making 700 tackles in a game.
Yeah, it's looking good.
So as far as 6, 7, and 8, definitely settled in a strong game against Scotland, for example. I think the first game, in my opinion. The 4 and 5 might change, not as far as Etzebeth is concerned. He's the anchor. Mostert obviously might move over to more of a utility role. And then I'll be interested to see if they utilize a guy like Jean Klein or Marvin Orri for the Scotland game. But I have a feeling that the Jean Klein will feature more come Ireland time, But then the front row, as you mentioned, is our staple food every day, all day, even twice on a Tuesday. Kitshoff, Marks, and Malherbe. I think, so we're making a statement to say that obviously we're taking this game seriously tomorrow evening. But as far as combinations, which is a little bit different to the back line, I think they're a lot more settled.
Yeah, no, I think I like the pack, and I think that for me, obviously the set piece being so important. With no Lured, I like the fact that they had gone Franco Mostert, because I do think him and Lured Diago are our two best line-out callers. Marvin does a good job, but I think those two are, I think when Franco and Lured are on form, it's guaranteed ball almost every single time you get a line. I think that's going to be very important tomorrow to try and sort of put a bit of early pressure on. But yeah, Chris, and then I want to get to the bench eventually, but then before we sort of talk about that center combination, 9-10, Faf to clip back into the action, partnering Liebach, they're not played a lot of rugby together, but I think the one thing about Faf is that I think that he'll take a lot of the tactical kicking out onto his own. He will kick a lot of 9, which maybe takes a little bit of pressure off Liebach from that regard. Also, the whole goal kicking thing, Faf's can do it as well. So how much do you think this combination, in terms of answers for the World Cup, how much do you think we're going to get from it in terms of, as I said, the tactical kicking point of view, the goal kicking point of view, even before we look at the actual open play connection between the two?
Well, probably a lot, right? Because I think we're all assuming that that's going to be our starting 9-10 for the big games. So we get to see. I guess as you're talking about, I was racking my brain. I can't remember how seeing them play together. So that's probably one of the biggest watches for me, is how they're going to go 9-10, how Faf's game kicking good, how they're interacting with each other. Because I'm a big believer the 9-10 chemistry and connection is vital. If you've got world-class 9-10s, you compete in most games if you've got a decent pack. So I'm very curious to see how it goes, because I know we talk about my boy Quibus, but I still like Hendricks. I actually have no issue with him starting. There's something about that guy. I can't put my finger on it, but he's good.
He just looks made for Test rugby. It's like he was like people that just want to do it. He's never looked flustered. He's never looked out of place. Yeah. He's looked like a 50 cap player in his first game.
Yeah, because he doesn't look like a athletic type of guy, built and running around, but he's so effective. He's very effective, and he doesn't mess up. And so a part of me feels I actually want to see Hendricks of Liebach just go for it, but I think we all know that Faf's going to be the starter. So let's hope they go well together tomorrow. Hey.
Well, I think a big thing. I think a big thing we need to sort out tomorrow is obviously our defense against the All Blacks was really
I was just
poor
about
in
to
that
say.
first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think that Faf starting will be a big part of that. I think especially with the cover defense. I also think that I think if we look at the team, we've got Franco Moss is looking much better. He's one of our top tacklers when we run form. PSF the toy is looking much. For me, if I look at PSF Toy last year to this year, he's just looking a bit faster, a bit fitter around the park. He's just looking like he's getting around things so much easier. So I think generally, our forwards, I'm very happy with regards to from a defense point of view. For example, I think Faf obviously adds so much with those defensive reads. Now, someone who I was so impressed with last week with regards to their defense, and he made 2 or 3 really intelligent reads, was Kenny Movie. He's now being thrown into the 13 channel, which is such an important defensive role in a box setup. It is being thrown to the wolves. It is very much sink or swim situation. Next to Andre Estehez, who's starting to settle in a Springbok jersey, but never nailed down a spot. I suppose sink or swim, but it's a player who has looked, like sinking is just not an option at the moment. How do you think he copes?
Yeah, man is buoyant. So sinking is not an option. No, but it's I think there would have been. I mean, the coaches would have had the conversation with him and said, look, we want you to try this out here. Maybe it works. Just go give it your best shot. Let's see what you can do. Kane and Ever, the professional, is going to absolutely grab the opportunity with both hands. And I mean, he's going up against possibly the best or the most well-worn, well-tried, well-drilled centre pairing in the world. And there's a big defensive ask for Kane Moody, and I think he will relish it. Being a youngster, being an athlete, being in that competitive mindset. So he's gonna show up tomorrow, or he doesn't. I think he will. I back him. But it really comes down to sort of his attitude. And again, that same coach, sort of said 90% of a tackle is attitude. And I 100% agree that if you go in hard, mean, you're gonna make that stop. So very, very excited to see him there. But Steve, if you give me 2 minutes, I'm gonna maybe take a controversial little take here on Faf's defense.
Ooh.
I think our defense has been looking better without Faf. I think he used to be, and maybe still is. Maybe it's just a couple there games out of play, but he hasn't been making the right calls recently. And Reeza and I were chatting about it defensively.
Yeah, but there's the wrong person we're speaking to about, because Dado just hates the Rush defense system, dude.
But I know, but we were doing it well against the Welsh, and again we can talk about the Welsh C team or whatever the case is. But the rush defense we were applying properly, whereas I feel like Faf is almost too overzealous with it sometimes, and he opens up some holes that don't need to be there. So while I'm keen to see that, I'm also, for me, I'm going to be watching Faf from a defensive aspect, and if our defense does look a bit holy, not in a good sense, not in like a sexy outfit kind of way, then I'm gonna have to make some questions about it.
Right. Well,
I don't know about you guys. I don't want to harp at it because I will be at Twickenham tomorrow.
Okay, well, Chris,
Stop reminding us.
Amazing. First time hearing it.
No, but my points about, and again, I just read. I mean, obviously, I don't know about you guys, but I love watching live rugby, backlines, live rugby. I find I see so much more watching it live, and I cannot wait to watch Moody, Ione matchups and Faf. I just feel you see and read a lot more when you live for backlines specifically. The forwards, you never know what the hell's going on in there, but you can see matchups nicely if you're in a good position at a rugby stadium. And I love that. So I'm so excited to see how that matchup. I wonder if they're going to eye each other or they're going to stick to a plan. It's going to be juicy.
Yeah, for me, it's watching the back three live. You watch certain fullbacks and they just
I love it.
Watch them and some of them just don't even move. They've anticipated exactly where the kick's going, exactly where the game's moving.
But don't you love a live when there's a kick and there's a guy coming a wind up running back into and you're on the like 22 and you watching him running full on into what's coming I love it. The sound, it's always a sound, right? You wait for that hit and you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
You're like, everyone's like, ooh.
And I grew up watching most of the rugby in the park where there were like 200 of us, so we could really hear the sound.
Oh, perfect.
So, no, I'm looking forward to your expert analysis next week based on what you've seen live here, Chris. There's no point just sending you for games just to enjoy it. We need to get the analysis.
Oh, was that what it was for? Oh, damn it! I missed the memos. Can you send the memo again?
Yeah, no. Well, you actually just as long as you're not there, busy throwing some live betting and doing anything shady out there. So just avoid doing any of that. But apart from that,
no, I'll send some clips for the boys and some updates for sure.
There we go. Looking forward to right then. And then in terms of accommodations, you talked a bit about the centres. Really, the back three. Damian Willemse cleared to play, which is obviously good news for the Boks. He's sporting a massive shiner. And then Makazole Mapimpi, Kirkley Arendse, the forgotten children in many ways. Kirkley Arendse is still scoring more than a try a game, and yet doesn't seem to be on too many people's minds with regards to a starting spot in the World Cup. And Makazole Mapimpi has done very little wrong when he's played this year, and yet as well, also almost sudden, to a certain degree, some people are almost calling him the fourth choice wing. How important is it for those two to just once again remind us that we could pick anybody at wing and we'll be okay?
I think obviously the experience of Mapimpi will definitely come through in the World Cup. There's just such a rich talent at the moment in South Africa in as far as the wings is concerned, that every test match, one player is pushing that little bit ahead in terms of the other player. It's going to be exciting to see Damian Willemse at 15, where I think he needs to settle, in my opinion, moving forward. I know he's quite a utility player, and he can play 12, he can play 10. But if needs be, maybe a 15, and if he has to play 10, then there. So giving him that extra bit of game time, it's a wonderful thing that he was obviously clear to play. We do have Willie on the bench. It'll be interesting to see what sort of utilization they then use in terms of, do they leave Willemse on for as long as possible? Do they then switch him, perhaps change another backline player and move him to another position? That's going to be interesting to see. We obviously want to hear from Chris because he's going to be there live. So he'll tell us all the juicy details.
I'll tell you straight from the ground, Ruud. Straight from the ground.
There we go.
Oh, shut up.
but also one thing, Stevie, is it Mapimpi? I thought, isn't it Mapimpi?
There we go.
It's not Mapimpi. It's got to be Mapimpi.
Yeah, don't worry. We're doing
it. There he is.
We're doing a trial fan park tomorrow. So I'm hoping that if Mapimpi scores a try and everybody in the fan park will be able to hear me in my own little commentary booth.
Well, I can't. Whenever I hear Mapimpi, I don't unhear that anymore, Stevie.
Well,
so it's done.
You're welcome. And look at me making me to leave an impression, eh?
Of course, man.
And then the big thing for me was the bench and 6-2 split, yes, which we've kind of become used to. And some people are saying that they reckon the bomb squad idea is gone. Although, ironically, New Zealand decided to match it with their own 6-2 split. But a return to 2 locks on the bench, back to the 2019 formula. Wes, do you think this is a case of, can we try to replicate the 2019 thinking? Is it a bit like 2019 where it was basically a case of, well, we've got 4 world-class locks, how do we pick between them? Has Jean Klein been the one to almost necessitate this? Well, actually, if we're trying to pick our best 8 forwards and an additional 3 forwards on the bench, Jean Klein all of a sudden is actually within that sort of, those sort of 9 players, well, sort of 12 players, but those 9 those options there off the bench in the bomb squad.
Yeah, I think in terms of trying to replicate, the 2019 situation, that would be a recipe for disaster, or it would be a stupid idea, because this is not 2019. It's not the same teams. It's not the same team. We're not going to the same place. So I think they might be looking for what works. Obviously, you don't want to disregard strategies and tactics that actually might have worked. So they're potentially looking at this and saying, hey, we did this. It pulled off sometimes. Maybe we can try again. I think, we can possibly see Mostert going to flank, and maybe not coming off, maybe playing a full 80 minutes and then getting 2 fresh new locks on and then seeing how that does, plus in the scrums as well as the lineouts. So, yeah, it's quite exciting. And I hope we see Willie off the bench. I was going to say, I give Willie a tough time, for always talking to the ref. And we saw last weekend, and fucking love Sia. Like, again, for all that Sia is, like, what he did is he just told Willie to shut up. He went to the ref and he apologized, which is perfect. Like, none of that nonsense. So I was a big fan of that. But Willie was playing out his socks. Like, I thought he was all of a sudden in the back line. He was a second distributor, almost kind of what the All Blacks do with Bowden Barrett, slipping them in there and having them a second option. So I'm very excited to see this bench come into action and how we utilize it.
Yeah, look, Villa is playing with some ridiculous rugby at the moment. I would go as far as to say that he is our most important backline player in the backline at the moment.
I was about to say that as well, Steve, to go out my mouth. I think he's so important to what we do, how we want to play.
Or hail Billy. And then he's going to play for the bloody next year, which is going to make me very sad. But yeah, I think Kubas Redach, off the bench.
Kubas, yes, man.
all the scrum getting a bit of game time and stuff like that. But I think for me it was forwards on the bench, which was interesting. This is interesting, and I want to also ask you, if you guys were to make any changes to tomorrow's team, what change would you make? The only thing I thought immediately when I looked at that team is I'd rather have Kwagga Smith there instead of Marco van Staden. I think he covers more across the back row, and then if we have that injury in the back line, God forbid, which we've never had, despite the fact that we have gone with 6-2 split so much, that obviously then he could slot into the wing and stuff like that. So that for me was the only sort of potential issue that there might be that, and there's also no, in theory, out-and-out option at 8. Yes, Marco van Staden has played there once or twice for Bulls, but many, many years ago. But is there anybody else were there any other sort of changes that you might have liked to have seen? If anyone to jump in here?
For me, sorry, I just would like to have maybe seen Ruan Pino at Flower. Just for the sake of goal kicking. I don't want to throw shade at Marnie at all. I think he's an exceptional rugby player, but coming to the crux of the matter is a 4 out of 7, a 5 out of 9 is not going to get you to a World Cup final, let alone win it. So that's just the only issue. So it's a little blip on a marvelous player, but it's really, I think it's more important than people are actually making it out to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I think the only thing with that is I suppose that if they're going to back him as your number one choice, it's because at the end of the day, it's not like it's a technique thing. He has had games in the past stuff where he's done it. So I think a lot of it is an adjustment to the level. And I suppose if you're going to back him for the World Cup, you do need to just put him into the cauldron over and over again and say, come, it's not going to get easier. You actually need to start learning how to deal with the pressure and kick in 80,000 Twickenham fans against the All Blacks environment and come good. There's definitely an issue. It's nothing we can ignore. The Boks are trying to play it off. The Bok management are trying to play it off and trying to take the pressure off them. But there's no doubt that behind closed doors there must be a bit of a shit. This is actually a problem, and I'm sure Bafta Clerk has been doing a lot of players kicking in the training ground. Where's Chris? Any changes that you guys immediately would have liked to have seen, or would you see 23 and you went cool? That's what I'm very happy with.
From my end, I think I agree with you, Steve. Like, Kwagga would have been great. I think he matches the All Black energy. I think when they ramp it up, he ramps it up, and it's that 7 sort of fitness and stamina and go. So yeah, I do think we lose something there potentially by not having Kwagga, but otherwise, no, I'm pretty happy with the squad and curious to see the combos.
Yeah, no, not for me. I think I've said before. I've when it comes to team selection, I'm a big fan of this book 30, this whole squad.
Yeah.
So I trust the coaches. When they put a team out, they put it like you saw. I don't know if you saw the interview. That's why we released the team on the Monday, because there's no faffing around. Like, we don't put the guys into uncertainty. We a week ahead. The guys know on Sunday already. I think if they're playing or Saturday, they already know. Go straight into the week. So I like that about how we organize ourselves. So there's obviously reasons why it's been starting to turn over Kwagga. So I think let them all have a nice hit out, and I think they all have a pretty good run outs now, right? I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go.
I think with the exception of like a Jaden Hendrickson, for example, most players have had quite a few games. Obviously no Sia Khaleesi and Oxen Chair. But let's actually take a moment to chat a little bit about Sia. Because as we've been talking about how important he is, and he is pivotal to this team. But and I mean, people talk about an ACL injury and what it does, and he came back last week and looked like he hadn't missed a minute. To try and sum that performance, I mean, how do you sum a performance like that and a player like that to have been on the sidelines for so long, come into a full-blooded international? Yes, maybe not against the best Welsh side, but just looked so fit and so sharp and so on the ball.
It was. I kept finding myself smiling when he had the ball or was involved in the play or near the ball. You know what I mean? And I was like, why am I smiling? And it was just because he was playing out. Well, not out of socks. He was playing like himself. Like as you said, never missed a step. He is Captain Courageous. He is our talisman. He does bring something so different to the whole team. But I mean, just a testament to his character and his strength and resilience. But then also the medical staff. Like I think. We talk about the guys in the field, the 15, the match day 23. We talk about the 33 squad selection, but the team is so much bigger than that. So I think, massive props has to go to the medical staff who absolutely smashed this recovery period. Whatever they were doing time-wise and rehabilitation, I think, they allowed him to really fire get back to firing. So, I mean, massive props to them and a big thank you to them. I think it would have been a very different World Cup had Sia not been fit or not made it or whatever. So no, a massive thank you to them. And I've always, I think when I was younger, you see some of the medical staff on the field, celebrating with the guys and the trophy, and I always thought, well, why are they there? They didn't win it, but that's the young, immature sort of selfish ways. But now, sort of seeing it from a broader perspective of who is the Bok team, the squad, it's so much bigger than the Oaks in the field. So yeah, massive thank you to them.
Yeah, well, there we go. Big shout out medical staff, and because I think, and obviously, it's been managed down to right towards the end, in terms of obviously knowing exactly where he was the entire time, and making sure that he was always ahead of his sort of the steps and the marks that he had to hit, which apparently was the case. Apparently wasn't the case on Jeff Pollard, which is where sort of the issue comes. But Chris, maybe we're on you on Sia Galicia and I suppose actually all three of the players came back from injury. Jaden Hendrickson looked, yes, he hadn't been injured, he's been fit for about the last month, but he hadn't played any rugby, but still looked pretty sharp. And Oxen Chair as well looked pretty sharp when he came on.
Yeah, they all looked pretty good, which is, like you said, testament to our conditioner. But I think that's again been one of our strengths with this era of the Boks, is the conditioning. They just really seem to be really on top of that. And I put my hand up. I was nervous on the show last week, right? I was so worried that Sia wasn't going to go well, and within 10 minutes, you were like, "Oh my, this guy's at pace." Okay, was that team, but you as you rugby player, you can see he was on it. He was 100% there. He was physically there, and I keep going back as a Stormer before I went overseas, watching Sia as a province coming through Stormers, and to think that player I used to watch, I enjoyed him, but to see where he is and how important he actually is to this team, like you could just see it, and how it's just amazing. I'm glad he's back. Hopefully, touch wood again, goes again, another nice 50-60 minutes. So, and another guy's at what as well.
Right, yeah. So we've got about just over 20 minutes left, and we still need to talk a little bit about the disaster class that is England. We're going to be talking about Ireland and the fact that they look pretty good over the weekend. France and Australia are going head to head this weekend. So there are a couple of games to look forward to this weekend. But before that, we're going to be talking about big W's, as we talked about earlier in the show. And Chris, it was a winning weekend for us, courtesy of Boyle Sports, who are the sponsors of the show. And if you have not gotten yourself a Boyle Sports account, it means that you did not win last weekend. And imagine not being part of that. I am, and I will be buying a beer tomorrow night at the Fan Park trial with my winnings. And Chris, you're going to show us how we're going to win some more this weekend. Talk us through the last weekend and what's on the cards for us this weekend.
Yeah, so we had a nice 2 out of 2 wins last week. I said took a different tact with what the odds, with the available odds going at that time of show. So I went with the Open in Pro D2 game, which was a bit nerve-wracking because usually it starts off with a 10-point, 12-point first game of the season in most games, but there were 3 tries in the first 15 minutes. Oh, here we go. But luckily it calmed down for 60 minutes, as it does in Pro D. It came home by 1 point, but we came home. And the Wales Africa game as well, obviously, I thought we were out. I didn't see a repeat second half. I saw the some changes coming in.
We
And
even said on the WhatsApp group, we got to that first half. We're like, yeah, so Chris, highest scoring second half. Man. I think we were all like, nah, here we go.
Yeah, I was convinced it wasn't in. And then to make it, that kick, I knew that kick was even when Wales scored the last try. It was even points, so he had to, because it would have been 5 minutes left, which means there had to be another score. So I was saying to myself, this guy Kai Evans has to nail this from the corner. And it went over, and I was like, okay, I can enjoy the last 5 minutes, because we were camping on their line in the last 5 minutes, but we didn't go over. We were close. So anyway, came home. So yeah, it's great to add into our record. Really enjoying the record that we got at the moment. I think that's like 5 from 5 out of 6 the last punts that we've given. So this week we've taken another U-turn, 180, and now we're heading off to New Zealand. And I've picked up some winners, some money line winners. Home team, gone for it's a treble. It's Tasman to win at home. Canterbury to beat Wellington. I know Wellington are a great side, but Canterbury are on form. They're playing some amazing rugby. Wellington, you'd never know what you're going to get at Wellington, especially away. And Otago, I'll take them home. They're playing Southland. Southland are okay, but they are generally not the strongest team in the league. And the Otago home win is also quite a solid punt. Those two are on Sunday. So yeah, we'll back these guys, big teams at home to take it home against less opposition. Get them some form lines now. Went to the 4th week. The points have completely dried up. I don't know if you guys saw 7-0 Ranfurly Shield on Wednesday. Absolute disaster. Like, it's just unheard of. Wellington beat Tasman 7-0. And we just to let you guys know, I mean, coming off NPC the last 3 seasons, we're talking about 65% of the games going over 60 points, and there's just been 80% have been under 50. So the trends have changed. The quality, I don't know if you guys watch it, the quality of NPC is kind of like our Curry Cup kind of went off the ball. Something's not quite right there with NPC. So, it's just they're just not playing that free flow in rugby like they're used to. But yeah, confident with this 2.5 units. I don't think I mentioned that. So that's pretty solid, confident bet. Let's cash another 2.7 units, and let's move forward. Let's hopefully these guys bring it home.
There you go. So there we go. Chris trying to bring home the bacon for us.
Bring home the bacon.
A big shout out to Boyle Sports, who not only bring you the show, but they've got some pretty cool sign-up offers and stuff like that. So go get yourself a Boyle Sports account. And get betting this weekend, because Chris is going to be bringing us bets every single week. And at the moment, he is keeping his spot on the show, because, as I said, we are winning. And when you're winning, life's good. It's the same as being a Bok fan. Everything all is always well when we win. Everything's always a disaster when we don't. So long may the wins keep coming, and long may we can keep Chris on the show. Right, chaps. In terms of some other games.
Nothing. Carry on.
No. You speak when spoken to here. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut it early.
Yes, boss.
We've got some other games this weekend. Now, I am taking a weekend off from the Saturday off. Rather, I'm not the weekend off. I'll be live with you guys tomorrow night for the All Blacks game, and then I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Rudy and Wes for the weekend or Saturday's games. So some interesting games, and interesting to see. For example, I think England's obviously under quite a lot of pressure. It just doesn't seem to be much that's first of all going well, but there doesn't seem much of a plan there with what's happening with England. But so in terms of the games for the weekend, we'll start with England versus Fiji, and Wes, I think you're doing that for us. So
I think I think that's I was Steve, but I think Ruz and I have shifted things around. But I'm happy to give my sense, a little bit of comment before we can hand over to Ruz if you want. But no, I think having watched the Fijians last week, because I commentated on the Fiji France game, it really was like a different Fiji side. They've come off a fantastic Pacific Nations Cup campaign, winning that, beating Japan really convincingly. They came into a French side, and they looked like they belonged there, which was awesome. I think all that let them down, which often happens with sort of the smaller sides, the sides who don't get as much exposure or as much rugby, was just a bit of consistency issues. The guys were able to build a few phases of pressure, and then, unforced errors, a knock-on or a silly decision kind of let them down. So No, from a Fijian perspective, really, really keen to see what they can do with ball in hand. We didn't quite see the flying Fijians that we're so used to. And I think, from a neutral standpoint, that's what you want to see, right? You want to see them running with one ball in hand, tossing it around, making outrageous passes. But actually, they just came out and they played a bit of sensible rugby. So from a neutral, I was like, what's going on? Exactly. I was like, what's going on? But I think from a longevity standpoint, it was like, okay, these folks are starting to build something, which I think was really encouraging. From England, I think England can hope that they get a card because that's when they seem to play better. When the plan goes out the window, they seem to play better. When they've got a full complement of 15 on the field, things just don't go well. But then when a card comes or whatever, then they start to actually look like they're playing rugby, because I think they kind of just say, well, we need to now adapt and just play a bit of rugby. Yeah. So anyway, it'll be very interesting to see what they can do.
Roots, this England side it's a bit of an enigma really to kind of work out where the issues are, and how does how Borthwick gets this right for the World Cup. I've actually got no idea, to be honest. But where do you see England? Where do you think England can improve, and where do you think they can get themselves to be quite competitive for the World Cup, or do you think it's they're on a bit of a hiding to nothing and it's just not going to go well at all?
I think just to mention the incident with the England captain, Owen Farrell, to come back to that, it's obviously a blessing that he has been banned, rightfully so, for his actions based on his track record. I think England do rely a lot on him for the sake of leading them. And I'm not sure if he's not there. They obviously have George Ford, who could fill in, or Marcus Smith. I just don't know. Obviously, he's not the be-all and end-all. He's not going to win them the World Cup. I'm just glad that the decision to go ahead with the ban has been fulfilled. But in as far as England is concerned and the way they're playing, I think there's an opportunity now for Fiji more than ever to actually beat England and to really rub it in that England have a big issue in actually trying to get out of their group. Obviously, Cal was joking around early on the group, saying Fiji could top that group. England have an opportunity to do something, but Fiji, they can win. And I think England, for the most part, are in a hell of a spot of bother. And I actually don't care. I hope anyone gets injured there, and that South Africa can meet them possibly in the semi-final.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting thing. I suppose that's kind of the nice thing that some people sort of talk about, the fact that saying, well, whilst there's so many teams in a bit of disarray, that it presents opportunities in terms of if you can get yourself to the latter stages of the tournament. Then you've got teams who are not well set, who are kind of there for the taking, and I do think that England are probably one of those sides at the moment, which is an interesting concept when you think that they were in the World Cup final in 2019 and how they've kind of sort of fallen apart. But you've been very vocal on Twitter, or X rather, Chris, about Borthwick. I think it was last weekend. Yeah, a couple of things to say.
Oh, you're stalking me. I do.
I got to monitor you and see what's happening. I was looking for more bets. I was looking to win more.
Okay.
So I thought I'd go check you out. But I mean, this Borthwick situation. I mean, do you think you can salvage anything? What would a good World Cup for England look like?
Get out that group and then possibly beat Wales. I've tried to. I mean, as a bettor, I've tried to back England 3 times. The Wales game. I think I gave a tip on my betting show last week. I said them plus 15.5. It was only 19 in the end, and they were absolutely atrocious. Okay, yeah, Ireland were actually not even out of half a gear. For me, it's the body language. I think I made that comment on the group. There's something doesn't look right there, and it's not just. I think everyone now has picked that up. The way they're behaving, like how decisions they're making on the field. But I don't know if you guys were watching the Amazon broadcast, but Simon Zebo, I think I even said this to you, Steve. I like to listen to ex-players watching warm-ups and team build-ups, because they know the body, like they can see if a team is up for it. And I think Zebo said these guys were just absolutely dead on their feet, not interested in each other, no energy. I mean, you say they inherited Eddie Jones, but they're not. I don't see it. For me, there's a culture problem in that team, and that's
Chris took the words right out my mouth there with the culture thing. I think if I can jump in here and
sure.
back up what you're saying, I think like what we've seen then. So on the field, you see the English players like celebrating, really small things, and the fact that it's gotten that bad where you're celebrating what should be not a given, but like the standard, that's where the bar has come down to. And so for England, what's worth celebrating and shouting about is if a line out is thrown in skew by the other team. So if that's your standard for celebration, like how low are your expectations for you and your team? And I think it's that raising of standards to say, no, like, yes, you want to encourage, you don't want to like, not celebrate everything, but lift the expectations. If your expectations are down on the floor, that's where you're going to stay, Yeah.
But you called it. What I feel I'm seeing, and again, not there, don't know, is they look like a team that don't back each other, they don't back the system. So they go out and play the way they've been told to play, but no one believes in it. You can see it. No one believes in what they're doing. And like you said, the last 10 minutes when the shackles are off, they basically go, stuff you, Steve Borthwick, we play the play for 10 minutes. You can see the shackles go. There's a completely, almost a different body language. You can see they're trying to do something that either it's not working or they don't believe in. Or there's a few bad eggs in there and everyone's like, oh, this is not fun. And they don't look like they're enjoying themselves one bit. Like that's the thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I look at this England side, I just kind of think that they look directionless at the end of the day.
You asked if he could turn it around. I don't believe it. I'm hearing. I know he talks this talk, but I love listening to ex-players and people who've been around, people who've been involved. I don't know how he turns it around. It looks like England need a proper full rebuild. They got the players. Well, what's a rebuild? I mean, a lot of these players are going to be around, could be around for a while still, but looks like they just need to start right from the bottom up again somehow.
Yeah, fair enough. Then we've got Scotland versus Georgia as well. And I mean, from a certain perspective, I think we obviously need to keep quite a keen eye on the Scots, who are not going to be an easy game. And Roots, I mean, I play against Georgia. I suppose the one thing that Georgia are, if nothing else, they are quite physical. They do bring quite a big side. And so it'll be quite a nice test. So do you think that will be a nice opportunity to sort of see where Scotland are physically in terms of, are they going to, if Scotland, for example, go and absolutely physically dominate Georgia, you then have to sit there and think, well, they might be able to sort of match us. So how much are you going to read into that game? Obviously, Georgia not particularly high ranked and you can't expect Scotland to get the job done. But as a Bok fan, we're playing them in 2 weeks, so we've got to try and sort of watch it and take some lessons out of it or take some info out of it. How much info can we take out of that Scotland game?
Before I answer that, I just want to add, obviously I mentioned I want to see every England player injured. I don't actually. I think it's just a South African sort of a statement to make if we do meet them somewhere along the line that we'll end up beating them and getting to the final and winning it. But coming back to your question about Scotland, I think they're a very structure-orientated team. So I think there's going to be a lot of eyes from our Bok management having a look at that game. In terms of Georgia, I don't expect them, other than maybe a good scrum, a little bit of scrap, to challenge Scotland that much in the game. Scotland are, remember, right up there in the top 5-6 teams in the world. So they've been preparing properly for this World Cup. So I think for them, it's going to be a victory. I won't say a runaway margin, but a comfortable victory. But I think from a South African fan point of view, it'd be interesting to see how efficient Scotland are at their structures. And then obviously being able to come up with a counter plan. And obviously I believe that we have that because we have that extra je ne sais quoi in South Africa where we just overpower. So I think our overpowering might be too much for Scotland, but I think we still want to see a little bit more leading up to that game.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I'm just going to try and go through some of the games. So you've got 5 minutes left. Unless you want to just jump on that.
No, I just think about the Scotland. They are a good side. I just want to chip in. I just like, and I agree with you, Roots. I think when South Africa are focused at a World Cup game, we are a better side. I think when we want to win, we just are going to be too strong for the Scots. I think they're going to give it everything they got, but we are the better side. So if we go in 100% ready and focused, we win that game.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I think I don't think we're a side that enjoy the gimme games, for example. I think we like to be tested. We like to have the pressure on us and sit there saying, right, this is a game you have to go out and actually grab by the scruff of the neck. And sometimes when we have those easier games, we can sometimes switch off. We've been beaten by Japan, for example, in World Cups and stuff like that. But Ireland versus Samoa. And where's, I mean, this is a game as Ireland. I mean, if I was an Ireland fan, Samoa must be one of the last teams I would like to be playing in a warm up game. I mean, as Ireland, how do you go in? I mean, you go into this game knowing, well, we've got to try and have a hit out, but you must be sitting there going, shit, this is not a team that you want to mess around with.
Yeah.
Injuries.
And we hope not, and because as as fans of the game and whatnot, you don't want anyone injured, and you just hope that's not the case. But like I haven't seen Samoa play for the last little bit, and as I said, the Fijians, whilst physical, they looked more like just a strong rugby side. It wasn't that sort of bone crunching physicality where you thought, oh, that could be an injury. So I mean, maybe the Samoans have followed suit, maybe not. Keen to see them get a run out. I think, I was actually thinking who decided on these warm up games, like, and who hates Ireland? Do you know what I mean? Like, because it must have just been, so when they saw that, they must have gone, yes, it's really. So I think, they will want to play smart rugby. I think they'll want to try run the Samoans ragged, just keep the ball alive, keep those big boys running back and forth, maybe a lot of kicking up the field, just tire them out, play smart rugby, which again, Ireland sitting at number one, like, you should be able to do. If you want to call yourself the best team in the world, you got to play smart rugby. Can't be one dimensional. So, let's see what they can do.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see sort of I suppose from an Ireland depth point of view, and this is the interesting thing is that you've got this continuous sort of conundrum between you need to obviously get your frontline players playing well and gelling and stuff, but you also need to make sure your second stringers that are going to play those sort of other awkward games where there aren't as many walkovers there were maybe a couple of World Cups ago, that they also need to be ready. The last game, I'm going to give this over to you, Chris. France versus Australia. 2 years ago, I would have, this could have been a coin toss type game. Now it's can Australia get their first win over Eddie Jones, and can France get away with no injuries after losing Intermac and Siwabai and stuff? But I mean, in theory, this should only go one way, shouldn't it?
It should, in theory, but I think. It's like England trying to back England all year. Australia's been the same conundrum. Yeah. But I love the French. The latest Oz French games have been lovely. That French tour last 2 summers ago was brilliant series, and if you guys caught it. And the end of the year tour last year, Oz nearly beat them. Don't be surprised if Oz actually win this game. I've got a little sneaky suspicion that they could give the French a hard time. And I love it now. Yeah,
and if they do, if Australia do go and beat France, and it probably won't be a full strength French side, but it'll have a lot of regulars. What does that do for the psyche in terms? Because I mean, how much is it going into the World Cup? Just kind of that, if they almost sort of just to see if they can bleed, because gods can't bleed, and once they're mortalized and stuff like that, you can't take away that whole that they're untouchable type thing, so they go and lose to an Australia.
Are we talking about Italy and the blue team or French blue team?
Italy.
We're talking about the French team. Oh, sorry, that's a team. Yeah.
Hey, listen, Chris, you're gonna be like 85 years old. Italy are gonna be winning the Six Nations, and I will be there at your old age home, going, yeah, I called it.
Buy me my Italian pajamas and blankie my old age home.
Michelle Lamar's my hero.
Keep me warm.
But I mean, how big of a thing would it be for France if they were to lose to Australia? If they'd be the first team to lose to Australia this year, at home 2 weeks before the World Cup.
Oops. Still with me?
Yeah, with you.
Anyone else in the comment? Yeah, okay.
The one going quick in it.
Oh yeah. No, well, it's just I'm just thinking. I don't know. This is the type of game France might not arrive at. That's just what I'm thinking. I think they're ready for New Zealand. I think this is the type of game they're going to battle to get themselves up for. And then, this is why I think Australia are dying for that performance. And I actually said that about England last week. But I think Australia have far more going on in their positivity in their camp than England. So haven't actually looked at the game yet, Cap, but I might have a sneaky punt on the odds plus for this game. But we'll see.
Right. Well, follow Chris Rowe on X to see if he decides to even be brave enough to advertise he's taking a punt on it. But yeah, gentlemen, it is 8 o'clock, so we're going to wrap up there. So a big thank you to all three of you for jumping on. We will be seeing all of you over the weekend. We're going to be seeing Chris at Twickenham. So we'll see if we can try and check in with you maybe tomorrow, which should be quite cool. And we'll be then seeing Wes and Rudy on Saturday. Maybe we'll also see Chris on Saturday. Maybe we'll try and see if we can go across to Twickenham once again. You know, look at us do live coverage, live crossing straight out Twickenham, on the ground coverage coming to you this weekend. Chris and his trusty tripod is off tomorrow. Hopefully he's worked out how it works.
I'll use my fame, put in power to try bringing some big names onto the camera for some interviews.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to see.
If I can't use my fame, I'll just use my charm. I'll charm them into an interview.
So an Owen Farrell exclusive tomorrow on Forever Sports.
Not Aaron Farrell though. Not Aaron Farrell.
That's where you're drawing the line now.
No, actually, I would actually like to talk to him about a few things.
Yeah, just go give him a tag. Give him an example. Right, thank you very much. Everybody else in the show, thank you very much for joining us. We will be live tomorrow, obviously, for the All Blacks versus the England game. Let's try and make it a nice big watch along, so please do go and check it over there. I'm actually going to be diverting you guys over to our Forever Motorsports fan forum, which is going to be kicking off momentarily. And if any of you guys are F1 fans, please go and hang around and go and show your support to the lads. It is the big Formula 1 this weekend. We are in Netherlands and Zandvoort, which is obviously Max Verstappen's home Grand Prix, so it should be quite a lot of fun there. So go and check them out and show them support. Otherwise, I will see you guys all tomorrow on the watch long. You will see all three of these faces, the other faces, whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, I'll leave it up to you, but you'll see them over the weekend across the various games. And we'll be back next week for another fan forum. As we, we only got 2 more after of these before the World Cup. 2 weeks tomorrow, and we're underway. I if we're gonna throw around Chris, he's going to Twickenham. I actually 3 weeks time right now, I'll actually be on a plane to France to go and see what's happening.
Buddy.
Must be nice.
Things all heating up, lads. Things all heating up. So the last weekend of rugby before the World Cup. I hope everyone's going to be joining us over the weekend and keep you guys company. And if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe as well. We are looking to try and get past that 37,000 mark. We were desperately trying to get to 40,000 before the World Cup. So you guys can help make that happen if you have not already subscribed. And I will see you guys all tomorrow and over the weekend. Thanks to the chaps here, and see you guys next time.